Da, da, sa, da.
Hey there, this is Joe Delamore, and I am speaking to you from the woods in western Massachusetts, a beautiful little pine grove with wonderful bird song in the background. And I want to share with you today about something that I've encountered along the way in my journeys here. I have traveled all the way from Colorado to Massachusetts, spent time with family, facilitated a few workshops, had many, many, many conversations with people around the work that I'm doing, and I'm in a point in my life where I am um, in active manifestation mode of a vision that I have around connecting with people in this dynamic, precarious, precious moment on the planet. Um, and so this for me is like a shift in direction to some extent of the work that I've been doing for the past while now. And it's requiring a lot of attention and focus because what it is birthing something into the world that doesn't already exist. It's moving towards a goal or following a vision, not necessarily a static goal, but following a vision that is strong in my heart and requires me to meet myself in new ways, requires me to stretch and grow myself in big ways, to grow out of my self-doubt and my insecurity, to stay dedicated and committed to the path, to continue to listen to spirit, and to follow the guidance that is being offered to me. And whenever any of us are in that phase of life where we're bringing something new into the world, whether that is a new relationship or new work that we want to share with the world, or whether we're creating, a book or a film or artwork, it requires us to stretch ourselves in certain ways and to learn a balance of forward action and kind of openness and surrender. And these two pieces, this yang energy of moving forward and getting things done, and this yin energy of knowing when to wait, how to be patient, when to maybe sidestep and readjust and approach it from a different angle. These two pieces are very dynamic for me right now. They're very active for me right now, and I want to kind of share some of the insights that I have around how that's working. Um, First and foremost is this kind of concept of dedication and follow through that requires stamina and endurance. And you may have seen the post that I made earlier before I left Colorado around receiving some elk medicine. I was out in the desert and I found a beautiful elk jawbone, and I met a precious little baby elk out there in the desert. And I went and looked up the meaning of elk when I got home, just to remind myself and get tuned into what is this message that the elk is sending me right now. And the message was stamina. And how I read it was follow through, stamina, focus, dedication, stay on the path, keep going. And so I took that to be a message for this trip, this journey, of really staying focused on following through with what I put out there. And and that's been a really helpful medicine along the way. That's been something that's really kind of carried me through a lot of moments where my self-doubt or where technical issues or communication glitches could have gotten in the way, where I could have said like, no, I'm gonna I'm just going to, not go there. It's not working out. It's not in the flow. Um, but I'm so glad that I got that medicine before I left, that I was able to keep that focus and that stamina with me. Because what wound up happening is through that dedication and through that stamina, I got to go deeper into my work. I got to receive more messages around this work of creating change on the planet, of creating the conversation of change and creating the kind of vibration and resonance of change on the planet and in our society. And I got to have many, many, many beautiful experiences with people, including two really rich and powerful workshops that I was able to facilitate in Boston and on Cape Cod, and many, many, many conversations outside of that. Just opening the door and walking through it and following through allowed so many new connections to be created along the way here, and so much more learning around what it really takes for us to create change in the world now. I'll share more about that probably in another video, but but the point of this one is that stamina, that follow through, and that kind of plugging away and sticking with it, even when I was really tired and having a hard time and had challenges with family. And I injured my shoulder right at the beginning of the trip, and so I was in a lot of pain for a while. There was a lot of reasons why I could have said, no, I don't want to do it. I'll just give up. And lots of self-doubt, lots of opportunities to have to kind of face that inner critic, that inner voice. And so I followed through and I persevered in the face of some moderate adversity, and I got to really experience the rewards of that, and really also experience a renewed commitment to continuing to follow through and to continue to reach out and create opportunities for more of this work to happen. So, so there's such a benefit to that follow through. And I want to inspire each and every one of you um, to have that kind of sense of follow through in your own life, that kind of stamina. If you're working on a project and there's some obstacles that arise, that sense of to keep going and keep doing our work. And and with in that inspiration, I want to share a story that the beautiful and wonderful Elisa Starkweather shared with me today while we were out walking through the woods here. And she shared a story about how she was in her garden and working in her garden, and she saw a little bee that had a broken wing and had only one wing and was missing one. And it was walking on the ground. And she thought, wow, that poor bee, he's going to become food. The ants are going to eat him. He's not going to make it very far. He's, on his way out here, a bee that can't fly. And she thought about it, and she decided to watch this bee and to see what this bee was up to. And so she followed the bee, and the bee walked through the garden and was walking, 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 came across a clover and walked up the clover and did its little pollinating action and walked down the clover and kept going. And she recognized that the bee was dedicated to doing its work, even though it couldn't fly from flower to flower. The bee was doing what bees do. The bee was following its path of being a bee and pollinating flowers, even without the gift of flight. And so that story to me resonated really strongly, because it's kind of like when we're really following our heart's calling and we're doing the work, but we're facing adversity, or we're feeling kind of battered, or we're feeling like it's not working out, we could easily go into a wallowing place of like, well, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it anyways. Or we could just keep doing our work, accepting, okay, this is hard right now. I've, experienced some adversity. I'm going to keep doing my work. And so that piece is the stamina side of things. That piece is the follow through and dedication and staying committed and going the long haul. And I think it's maybe a Buddha quote that says there's only two mistakes that you can make: not getting started and not going all the way. And that one's been really sticking with me a lot on this journey. I got started. I headed out on this journey, and so the message kept on being, well, go all the way. Keep at it. Keep going. And so that message and that tool has really, really helped me a lot through this journey and gotten me over several humps and through several obstacles in order to experience the rewards of connection and the rewards of real deep healing work with people. But on the other side of that, I want to bring this teaching kind of in its fullness and in both parts, so that I can really share what's going on here for me and what I feel is valuable. That it's not all about just moving forward, and it certainly isn't about pushing. It's not about manifesting our visions by brute force. There's so much listening and so much surrender and so much softening and adjusting that needs to happen along the way. And so there are times where we need to take a step back and assess what's happening. Look at it from a different perspective. Maybe not to step forward into the thing that we had planned in that moment, but to step back and look and feel and readjust, so that when we step forward, we can step forward from the best place possible, and we can step forward in the right timing, and as things kind of are, as we're invited into stepping forward. So this is really tricky, and it's something that I've really been working with, because I'm like, okay, I dedicated to doing this. I set out to do this. I'm going to go forward, and I'm going to stay committed. And what I've found along the way is that there are moments where I have to soften and relax without giving up completely. And so the decision that I made at the end of this trip, which is really kind of a tricky decision for me, was to cancel the third workshop that I had. And I decided to cancel it because it had been a lot of work to get people gathered, to get people to spend a day out of the busyness of their lives, out of the survival mode, quite frankly, that most of the people that I talked to were in. And for me to fill the workshop, for me to get the people there and to get the kind of energy going for it, required so much energy. And after a lot of kind of a lot of different challenges along the way, having two great workshops, but facing this third workshop, feeling kind of depleted and tired, I recognized that my own need for reconnection. I recognized my own need for self-care and for some spaciousness, to regroup and to renew my energies before I go back to Colorado to do more workshops and more connections with people in the West. So I made a very kind of controversial call here to cancel this workshop, because we didn't have enough people committed to coming. And at that point, I recognized that in order for me to do it, I would be pushing. I'd be really coming from a depleted space and pushing to make it happen because I said it was going to happen. And I recognized that the truth for myself, and the highest quality decision that I could make at that time, was to give myself a couple of extra days to make it home to Colorado, so that I wasn't doing the workshop and then rushing home and facing, the next bit of work there. To give myself this time to get out of the car and be in the woods, to relax a little bit, and to assimilate all that had happened in Massachusetts, all that had happened in those workshops and in the family connections and the friend connections, because there's so much to learn here that nourishes and feeds the work. So I told my nephew that I was canceling the third workshop, and he knew kind of what I was up to, and is very supportive. And he took my shoulders and he looked me in the eyes and he said, "You can cancel this one, but don't cancel the whole thing." Basically, like, it's totally okay to back off of one, but keep on going. And so that's kind of, the wisdom from my beautiful 23-year-old nephew, of staying true to the path, and knowing that it's okay to take a step back every once in a while. It's okay to soften some areas and to not be constantly just pushing, but that dedication, that commitment to following through for the long haul is so essential. And I know that for any one of us who's creating anything in our lives, whether that's business or art or social change or anything that we're manifesting into the world, it's a dance. And it sometimes feels like one step forward, two steps back. Sometimes it's two steps forward, one step back. But it's a dance and it's a flow. And so I'm sharing this with you now, the insights around balancing that yin and yang energy, that forward moving and that receiving and reflecting energy. So these are some of the inner tools that we need for bringing our gifts into the world and turning our lives into a gift for the world. So many blessings to you, and thanks for listening. Hope you're having a beautiful day. Peace.